Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining Encore Palm Beach County for today's special event with our special guest, Debbie Wemyss. Rosemary Nixon, our founder, will introduce Debbie and be the facilitator for today's discussion. Rosemary, take it away.
Thank you, Christine, and welcome everybody. Those of you who don't know Debbie, our guest today, is a former New Englander, has had a career in public relations, getting the connection early on, offering expert coaching on using LinkedIn as a powerful branding and marketing tool. Debbie, I have given Christine and Karen a set of your questions because I'm having some instability with my internet connection. So, Debbie, before we get going on your current situation, could you take us back a little bit?
Okay, Rosemary, you froze up a bit on that. I think you wanted me to talk about my earlier career before I encountered
Yes, please.
employment. Okay, so I was in the nonprofit world for 23 years, and all of it in Palm Beach County, and thoroughly enjoyed every nonprofit I worked with. There are one is still viable, the Palm Beach Zoo. Hopefully everybody's been there. It's still one of my favorite places. But I was in marketing, media, PR for about 16 years. And then the last 7 years of my career, it was fundraising. And I was very fortunate to meet some of the wealthiest people in the US over in Palm Beach, Hutchinson Island, Wellington, and a few other areas. Didn't really get down into Broward and Dade County. We had plenty going on right here in Palm Beach County. Loved every minute of it. And I learned very early the importance of relationships. And I have always maintained relationships over the years, which came back to work in my favor in a big way when I went through unemployment. So I love people since I was a kid. I think I knew what relationship building was when I came out of high school. I was very proactive in college with organizing groups, and we had a baby grand piano in our dorm, which was a 3-story Victorian home in Worcester, Massachusetts. I was there for 2 years, junior college. I was the only one that played piano for 2 years. So I was the instigator to get everybody around the piano at Christmas time, and we had a great time. So I'm always been an outgoing personality, but one of the most important things about relationship building at any point in your life is the ability to listen and to give that person in front of you or on the other end of the phone or the other screen on Zoom, give people a chance to speak and be interested in what they have to say. And what led into the job seeking process was that very key point. You need to keep your relationships going. You need to keep yourself visible in front of whoever you know. Networking is huge, huge. Even when I didn't know what I was going to do next, I was at several free, everything was free because I didn't have any income, but I was at every free networking gathering I could get my hands on. Even not knowing what I wanted to do next, I was still out there in front of people that I knew, letting them know I am actively looking for my next opportunity. I'm not sure if it's going to be in marketing or sales, but I'm here, I'm available. I love Palm Beach County. You have to keep yourself out there. And that's tough sometimes because you're not at your most confident level in your career. Certainly me at 57, with 2 kids in college and being a single parent, it was definitely tough because I knew all these people from my nonprofit work and then some. And they were like, wow, you lost your job. And very few people know the story behind that. I can laugh about it now. It was a typical scenario. Unfortunately, it was a pretty toxic environment when I walked into it, unbeknownst to me. It was a case of um, having a leader that couldn't embrace my database, which was why their board told her to hire me, because I knew so many of those wealthy donors. And that was my role, business development director. And I went right to it, and I went right over to the island, and I started bringing in checks, and some of them were coming from banks and entities that this executive director had tried for years. I had the relationships, and I had them back from the Palm Beach Zoo years before, when these people used to donate to the zoo. Now, that was when I was in marketing. I wasn't in fundraising, but I had developed those relationships early, and I kept them going. And I think that's one of the main points about job seeking. You can't just stay home and, well, of course, COVID. Yes, you need to stay home. But as we go through the vaccination process, thank goodness, no matter how you feel, that is going to make a nice turning point for a lot of people over the next several months. I'm going to my very first in-person outdoor networking event down in Boynton tomorrow. I'm very excited. There's a limit of 12 people, and I'm one of them. And I'm very excited. It's the first time. This is a third bedroom turned into an office. This is where I've been for 14 months. The banner behind me over here, that is what I used to take with me on speaking engagements, out and around, wherever, locally, or on the plane. When we went to do conferences, I was a keynote speaker at a couple of conferences in Austin and Milwaukee, of all places. And you go through the adjustment, and I'm starting to rattle. So I'm going to stop, and I know you have questions.
So Debbie, thanks for bringing us up to today, but going back 10 years ago, when you first became unemployed, what were the first things that you did to get reemployed?
Well, after my head stopped spinning, because I was, here's something that I think will be helpful. I've heard this more than once, and I truly believe it. If you lose your job, you go through a process that is very similar to the grief process, losing a loved one. It's extremely similar. I totally believe it. I was right in the denial stage for I'd say a good month. I couldn't believe that I had been let go. I've never been fired in my life. I'm always a really good employee, successful, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I was out the door. So once my head kind of came into focus, and I am the youngest of 5 siblings, all very successful, 3 of whom are in the nonprofit world. And I got over the angst of telling my family members, I'm unemployed. I'm looking for work. I don't have a clue what I'm going to do, because it was the crash. So even though I knew a huge audience in the nonprofit world, nobody was hiring. Even people that were highly skilled, like myself, nobody was hiring. They were cutting back. So I got my act together in terms of, okay, get over it and move on. And you've got to find something that's going to help you do that, because you can get stuck in that mode. I work with people all the time now that are in transition. They're stuck. They are full of, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've been trying this for so long. Nobody wants to hire me. I'm too old. I've got gray hair. I had a man ask me recently, should I dye my hair? And I said, no. I said, no, let me work on your self-confidence. And we took it through a different angle. And so what did I do first? Honestly, I went to CareerSource. I'm still a proponent. I looked online for anything and everything. that I could latch on to for guidance. For instance, I hadn't written a resume in 30 years. I had a 3-page resume I pulled out and dusted off, and I took that to Career Source from one of my first counseling sessions with a career counselor, and she said, "Oh, no, 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 this is not going to do. Too long, too wordy, and that was the first thing I did was get help. You gotta get help. You can't be embarrassed about asking and finding and seeking help from people that are more skilled than you are. Well, I needed help big time with that resume, and they actually got it down to 1 page. I've learned so much more now about resumes over the past 10 years, but that was one of the first things because you need that. You need that to get started. You're going to have to upload it to job sites. So get some professional help. There's guidance available. And here's the other thing. There's so many resources in Palm Beach County that can help you. Start by looking at the Mandel Library downtown. They have a whole slew of programs, seminars, presentations. Lo and behold, my early start with LinkedIn, I used to give a 2-hour presentation to job seekers at the library. It was free to them. The library very graciously, one of their, I think it was called Friends of the Mandel Library, they did pay me. I gave them an extremely discounted rate because I wanted to help, and I was not, frankly, I wasn't well known enough. I didn't have enough traction behind me to charge a lot of money. So it was like a stipend, but it was fine. But that room was packed every time I did that seminar because those people, all ages in front of me, they knew they needed LinkedIn as part of the job seeking process. So resume first, keep networking second, find those local meetings. I think the Palm Beach Post on Mondays, I'm pretty sure they still post a whole week's worth of meetings that are going on around town. So I'm pretty sure it was Monday's paper. Of course, you can probably get this information online from the Palm Beach Post site as a non-subscriber. But you can do so much online to look for opportunities for networking, professional help in areas. If you're gun shy about interviewing or you haven't interviewed in a long time, you need to practice. You need to find somebody to practice with who's going to hopefully give you honest feedback. I get very detailed. That's one of my current faults. It's a fault most of the time, I guess. Sometimes it's an advantage for the people that are paying for my speaking engagements.
So Debbie, you were doing all those things, but you didn't go into employment. You started to a new business. What was the catalyst for that? What made you decide to go in that direction rather than continue to look for a job, quote unquote?
That's a great question. So like many people right now, I had been pushing resumes out, applying to jobs for months. I was also running out of my employment benefits. I was also tapping into things I should not have touched, like a 401k. Um, I was very stubborn. I was intent on I was intent on staying in the nonprofit field. I had to finally open up to the fact that I needed to do something different. I needed to get away from the nonprofit world. That was not going to work. Honestly, this will be in my book. It took a little over 100 resumes, applications, before I finally sat down and said, okay, this isn't working. You're running out of money. You're starting to go into savings. This is crazy to keep, the definition of insanity. You keep doing the same thing and you expect a different result. And it was an eye opener because I was pretty confident, rolling along, collecting my unemployment. My kids, we had Florida prepaid, thankfully, so they were in college without any debt. I didn't have to worry about that. But yeah, the months were going on and I wasn't working. And I finally thought, I need to do something different. Okay, that's when I tapped into, I think it was my second career counselor, and she gave me a tip that I pass on to this day. I'm going to do it now because I know this will help some of your people, in your group. If they haven't tried this, it's very basic, but you will learn from it. It's an exercise. You take pad of paper, put your phone aside, find a quiet place. I literally remember doing this like it was yesterday. I actually got in my car, drove US 1 up to Jupiter to some park. I don't even know what park it was. I'd never been there. It was a beautiful day. Took a bottle of water, my pad of paper and a pen, left the phone in the car, went and sat under a little kiosk thing. And it took me about 2 hours to do this. So on one page, you make a list of every single skill you have. And that's everything. That's all the hard skills. And then you include the soft skills like communication, networking, community outreach was one of mine. I love to go out and mix and mingle with people in the community. Negotiating, if that's part of your background. It really takes time to start thinking of every single thing that you can do that would help you to find a job, make you more employable. It takes a while, and you want to be uninterrupted. You don't want distractions. So I picked a park in the middle of Jupiter, and I just went at it. Then you make another list. And this is where it starts to sound a little bit corny, but you have to bear with me. You make another list of everything that makes you smile, everything that makes you happy, everything from family, personal stuff, business related activities, areas of work that put a smile on your face, anything and everything that makes you happy. And again, this does take some thought. So you make those two lists. And the next time I went back to that career counselor, she took my two lists, she put them on her desk. And I'm still in touch with this woman. She's transferred to Career Source down in Broward, but I'm still in touch with her. She put the list together and she started drawing lines from a skill to the other paper, what makes you happy. And it took her about 15 minutes to look at me and say, well, Debbie, you need to be a coach. And I just about fell off my chair. That was so far removed from anything I've ever done, I thought. And I said, how did you come up with that? And she said, well, on your list of things that make you happy, you talk more than once, more than one line about how you really loved watching your girls play soccer, but you also liked becoming a coach because back then the parents would stand on the sidelines and be screaming at their kids, telling them what to do on the field. The coach would be out there trying to do their job, and I'd be standing there with these other parents not screaming and going a little bit crazy, thinking, let the coach do their job. And I lasted one season, and I had one daughter that was a soccer star and the other one that could barely score a goal. And I said to my ex, I said, I love this game. I love what they're learning. I can't stay on the sidelines with those parents. I'm going to go get certified. So I did. I got certified as a AYSO coach and ended up doing it for 5 years. My two girls went on to other teams and sports, and I stayed with it, coaching 10 to 12-year-old girls. And it was so fun, and I loved it. And so that was listed on my What Makes Me Smile. And over on the left, there was communication, team building, teaching, and she put it all together. So then I said, okay, great. I should be a coach. What am I going to coach? Certainly not soccer. And that was when I started to think about, and it didn't take me long because I was already into LinkedIn in a way that I was spending a lot of time on LinkedIn because I was really, really liking the idea of connecting with people online and then meeting them in person at networking events and introducing them to other people I knew to help them build their network. It was all about them, not me. But I liked that whole idea I said, isn't this great technology, you know, that lets you meet people online and then you can look, you know, look them in the eye at a networking event or whatever, however you get together in person. Um, and I knew then it was also a way to follow companies that you have an interest in working for. I was already looking at LinkedIn as a job seeker. Meanwhile, meeting every month with these older workers. I was in the preferred placement network. I was over 50, making over a certain amount of money. And you either had to have a 4-year degree or managerial experience to get into the preferred placement network. They still have this. I didn't have a 4-year degree, but I had a ton of managerial experience, including hiring and firing lots of people over the years in my different work. So I was in one of their monthly meetings with these other gray-haired people around me. We were all looking for jobs, and there was somebody up there talking about social media. And I thought afterwards, I went up and I said, you've got to let me do the next meeting and talk about LinkedIn and how people can find jobs and meet people, yada, yada. And they wouldn't let me do it. And I thought, well, this is odd. You're supposed to be helping us find jobs. This is a great site. Well, I learned long later. CareerSource is in every state, different, little bit of a different name, but they're funded by the state. And had I walked in and shown everybody how to do their own thing on LinkedIn to find a job, that wouldn't have been really good for CareerSource. So it would have actually cut on the money that they're getting from the state, because I'd be cutting into the results of them putting people together with job opportunities. I had no idea that until years later. I was just irritated they wouldn't let me do it. So this is in my book, will be. After the meetings, you know, a lot of us brought laptops, and I said to people, I said, yeah, they're not going to let me talk about it here, but come on outside with me. I'm going to show you something about LinkedIn. Literally put the laptop on my car hood, had 3 or 4 people around me looking at my screen. And then it went from there. Next month, we went to Starbucks after the meeting. Everybody had their laptops. And I didn't even realize it at the time. But I was stunned a couple of months later after one of these. We were doing it every month, you know, and I would show them something else about LinkedIn. And I remember this like it was yesterday. When one of the men came to the meeting, he said, listen, that LinkedIn is pretty good. He said, I got 2 interviews because of what you showed me last month. And I was like,
The light dawns.
What do they call that? What do they call that moment? Now I can't
Light
think of the
bulb
word.
moment.
Yeah, literally. I got in my car after that meeting and I thought, oh my God, that was so cool. You know, I really like this. And I maybe I can make money at this, showing people how to use LinkedIn, because it's not a user-friendly site in terms of learning what to do. I mean, everybody can set up a profile, but okay, what do you do then? That's exactly how it happened. And why did I open my own business? Because I was frankly running out of money. And I was really seriously, my siblings were coming down on me and they were like, when are you going to stop looking at nonprofit jobs and figure out something else? So the more I talked to them about LinkedIn, they were like, so go show older people how to use LinkedIn, you know, to get jobs. And that's exactly what I did for the first, I want to say really about 5 or 6 months. I was still going out to several free networking events, but now I was standing up saying, I called myself a LinkedIn specialist. And everybody look at me and say, what the heck is that? You know? And so I let these different groups in networking that I was doing, I let them know what I was doing and what they could get from LinkedIn, because a lot of them were in transition or maybe unhappy with their work, wanted to do something else. Honestly, that's how it all started.
That's a great explanation, Debbie, of kind of one thing leads to another in life sometimes. And also, statistics show that the largest increase in a business ownership is among people over 50, like yourself, who have found a way of using their skills and experience to offer a needed service of some kind. And so it doesn't usually result in a big business with many employees, sometimes a single owner business, but people are doing what they enjoy doing and making money at it. Yours is a perfect example. So if you had to start a business now, what would you do differently? Would you do anything differently?
Oh, yeah. Yes. First of all, you have to embrace the idea of learning from every mistake you make. The beauty of having your own business, you get to screw up, but you also get to fix your mistakes right then and there. Working in nonprofits, as much as I love nonprofits, it took forever to make changes. You had to go through so many channels. So what would I do differently? Number one, I would purposely seek out mentors. And I was very stubborn on that. And boy, I'll tell you, it was a game changer. One of my clients became a mentor, and he used to run a little company called DHL Global. This man was in charge of 150,000 logistics professionals around the world, knew nothing about LinkedIn, forced retirement when he was 48 from a skiing accident that broke his neck. He used to fly around all the time. He used to be flying around the world, with DHL and going to different offices, and he had to stop. And he became my mentor, and he said, he taught me so much. But the biggest thing he taught me was, he said, you have a coaching style. He took off. He did every single thing I taught him. He did it, and he took off with LinkedIn in a big way, and he became a raving fan. That's what we call them. And what he told me from the beginning, he said, your biggest challenge is going to be cloning yourself. He said, I put every one of my CEO clients in front of you, and they love you. They love the way you coach. You're going to have a challenge teaching other people, because you're going to, if to scale your business, you have to hire and train other coaches. He said, that is going to be your biggest challenge. And he's absolutely right. I spent 5 years as a solopreneur doing everything before I brought somebody on board. And now I have 3 people that work with me, but they're all contract workers. They are all part-time 1099 workers. And we have a great team. We happen to be a group of women. But I just brought my 3rd coach on board, and it takes me about 8 months to train a coach, because I am training them to do things exactly the way I do. And that takes a long time. So lots of after hours training, weekend trainings, but we now, there's 3 of us that coach, and I have a 4th person that's a admin. She's remote, but she's all the way over in Royal Palm Beach. I also utilized, and I tell people now, if you're growing, because I'm in a lot of professional women's groups that are full of entrepreneurs, a lot of them are just starting out, and I'll say, don't avoid the 19 area colleges in Palm Beach County. There's 19 colleges. Can you believe that? I got some of my best interns from Kaiser University, not to lean on Kaiser. I mean, Palm Beach State College as well. But most of the colleges have interns that are looking to work, not necessarily for money. And all the interns that I got, it was volunteer work. So they could learn from me about running a business, and they could help me in the process with whatever I had for them to do. 2 of those interns, one of them is still with me. She's been with me for 3 years. And she is now a paid, obviously, contract worker. But that's a fabulous resource when you start needing help and you're not ready to. I'm still not in a position to hire somebody full time, but that strategy has worked well. So I would not hesitate like I did to get a professional to mentor me and learn from somebody who's been there, done that, that you can learn from. That's number one. Number two, I still haven't done this. I'm kind of embarrassed about it, but there's only so many hours in the day. I will get there eventually. Go to the SBA and take advantage of their courses. And if you're a female, you should consider becoming a certified women business owner. So that's actually on my list for this year. So
Okay.
wanted to get a trilingual coach under my belt, and I just did that. She speaks.
And that was the FDA, did you
Yes,
say?
Small Business Association.
Oh, SBA.
SBA.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You froze, Mary. Rosemary.
I think you're probably good at selling yourself. Did you not hear me?
No, I think
I
you're on
know
the
my
question about-
internet.
That's okay. I think you were asking about sales skills, right? How important are sales skills for being an entrepreneur?
My internet connection is adding up, but I'll say it again. Yeah, how important are
Christine, I think she's on the question about how important are sales skills as an entrepreneur. And do I work harder as a self-employed person rather than an employee? Yes. Yes, I work a lot harder. However, I'm blessed to love what I do. And it's a true saying, if you can find something you love to do for work, you're not going to work a day in your life. That is so true. Yeah, yesterday was a 15-hour day. It went by like that. I had to shut down at midnight. I was like, oh my gosh, it's been one of those nonstop days. That does not happen very often. But I had 3 presentations today, starting at 9 this morning with a bunch of high schoolers from a private high school down in Broward. Awesome group of very, very way beyond their years, 17 and 18-year-olds. They all want to start their own businesses. It was amazing. But yes, you work harder, but hopefully you're doing something that you love, so it doesn't feel like work. As far as sales, I'm telling you, it goes right back into all that networking that I've done for years in every job I've had. When you're comfortable with what you are doing and what you are offering, it's a lot easier to sell it. And for me, and when we're always saying this on LinkedIn, because there's so much going on in technology to automate things. And there's so much opportunity for people to buy into automated software, get it attached to their LinkedIn, and send out 100 invitations a day to people to connect. All of that is in violation of the LinkedIn user agreement, and it can get you shut down. And that's why we don't touch it. But the other reason is because we believe in what we call old school networking with cutting edge technology. And we teach people, yes, I will show you how to get right in front of the person you need to sell to. And you're going to have to hold yourself back. And you're going to have to take the time to develop a relationship and go from there. Because if you come on too strong, too fast, even online, it's the same as somebody walking up to you at a networking event with a fistful of business cards, and they shove a card at you without shaking your hand first. That's how I equate it. So sales skills are important. And I'm still the only salesperson. So another thing on my list for this year is to get a contract salesperson. And again, it's going to require some training because I don't want them coming on too strong either. but I can show them who we want to work with. And hopefully they will open the door so I can be freed up to work in, what is it? Work on my business, not in it, or the other way around. Anyway, yeah, it's important. And again, there's so many free things out there and online to learn sales, if it's something new to you. But yeah, you have to be confident in what you're promoting, and then the rest of it goes from there.
So what are the 3 most important things you learned when you were an unemployed, middle-aged female professional that could help people today?
Be open to doing something that you're not familiar with or you're not entirely comfortable with. Be open to opportunities maybe outside your comfort zone. And going back to the beginning, what we're seeing now is a lot of people that are in transition that have been for over a year. They're frustrated. They feel like they've tried everything. And we're giving them some guidance on, okay, sit back, take a hard look at your skills. Do you have the ability to be a consultant? And I really think that's why there's so many people over 50, male or female, doesn't really matter, starting their own business, because it's been a while. It's been over a year for a lot of people. I know what it's like. It was a year and a half for me, really, before I got my business going and started making money and really started to have a belief I can make this work. I can actually pay my bills and go on from there. 3 things. Okay, be open to change. Be open to opportunities outside your comfort zone, and listen. Listen to people that are smarter than you. Listen to other people. Get yourself around other people that have done it. If you really think you have a shot at being a consultant, get into some networking groups. Go to meetup.com. That's MEET, like I'm going to meet you at Starbucks, meetup.com. Plug in your zip code. I believe in Palm Beach County, there are over 400 meetups now. And in the beginning, long ago, meetup was purely social group, get together with people that like the same sports team or hobbies or whatever. Now there are just as many professional meetup groups as there are social. And I belong to about 6 professional meetups. One of the best professional women's groups I belong to has grown to over 3,000 members, but now they have 3 different locations. Everything's on Zoom. Excuse me. But when things come back in, there's one of the groups meets in Wellington. One of them meets in what she calls Central Palm Beach County. And now her newest one, I think, is Del Rey, I think. And that's called Women's Master Networking. That's one of my favorites. Another one is a nonprofit that I belong to, the Alliance of Women Executives. And we raise money for scholarships for high school women in the area that are going to attend either Palm Beach State College or FAU. And it's wonderful. I'm director of communications now. Can't seem to get away from nonprofits. So I'm on their board now. And then Kaiser University just invited me to be on the advisory board. So now I'm back in with 2 different boards, but it's been fun. And yeah, I would say those are 3 of the most important. And as far as for how I would advise if it would be different for a middle-aged male professional, nope. I think you have to be out there networking. You have to be open to change. And that's tough. That's tough for a lot of people. I know how tough it is. We get very comfortable,
The good thing is, because of the pandemic, there's no shame in being unemployed. People have plenty of company, and so they shouldn't be uncomfortable about transitioning at this point. So working with unemployed professionals over 50, what do you hear most often from them and about their difficulty in finding work?
It is very common, and it's not just for people of that age bracket. Just with the advent of online interviewing, everything being done virtually, and it's very frustrating not to hear back from a company that you've applied to. It's just something that you have to get used to. You have to keep the positivity going. You have to keep the hope going. It's going to be a very strong part of the book that I'm writing about my transition at 57 of, a year and a half of unemployment and discovering and starting my own business and going from there. That year and a half, when you run out of money, it's not fun. And then when you have to go to your siblings to ask them for money, and they say, well, why on earth did you dip into your savings, blah, blah, blah. Whew, big lessons there. I was too proud. And you've got to push. You got to keep going. You have to find something in you. And we have lots of guidance there, whether it's meditation or subscribing to newsletters that are full of affirmations. You have to be willing to do what it takes to keep going. You can't give up. And it's all about that 4-letter word. It's hope, and you just have to find something that's going to keep it going. I think one of the big things, this was tough. And there's no getting around it. I lost a lot of friends. I'm using that word loosely. I lost a lot of friends in my journey because they stopped calling, because I stopped going out because I was running out of money. So I couldn't go run down to happy hour with them like I had for years. Now, a couple of those people are still good friends. A lot of them I haven't talked to in years. But you make new friends and you find ways to surround yourself with people that are going to be helpful, people that are willing to lift you up when you are at your lowest. You have to work at it and understand and embrace the idea that, yes, the people that you're familiar with, other than your family, might change. They probably will, because now you're in a different mode. And I have a 29-year-old, 29-year-old. She's up in Orlando. I just spent a weekend with her. And one of the big things we talked about was how, and it was a real good conversation for her because she hadn't had it. She was heartbroken losing a lot of her friends who are well into their career. She's struggling. She's been unemployed for a year. She had a great job for 5 weeks with Cirque du Soleil, and she moved from Fort Myers to Orlando to take that job. And 5 weeks later, the whole team got furloughed. And of course, now Cirque du Soleil is completely closed, bankrupt. Sad story, but I feel good about being her mom because I'm right there pushing and encouraging, and she sees what I go through. And that's helping her. So you have to surround yourself with people that are going to be more relatable. And that was one of the reasons the monthly meetings with Career Source, we were all over 50. A lot of us had gray hair. We were all unemployed. We were all fighting against the people half our age that wanted half the money, that were getting all the interviews. And yet we kept coming back month after month. And in that process, you learn other resources and other ways to keep yourself going. I just picked up yoga less than a month ago. My sister in California has been after me for years. Why aren't you doing yoga? Well, I couldn't go to the gym anymore for COVID. Had some foot surgery in January, and I literally couldn't do anything. I still can't do more than walk around Publix. And I used to be a speed walker. Don't think that was hard. Sitting on a couch waiting for a foot to heal. It takes months. You learn patience. You learn to keep going. So my first thing to get movement going again is yoga, and I happen to love it now. I still want to go back to the gym. But
Well, what you're talking about is self-care during a time of unemployment. I recommend swimming as an excellent exercise and also good for your mental well-being also, because it relaxes not only the body but the mind. But you've touched on a couple of things, Debbie. One is that also younger people are experiencing unemployment and may feel generally discouraged about the future. I mean, are there going to be opportunities in the future? And I think that one of the roles that people like yourself and those of us who have been around the mulberry bush can help them understand nothing lasts forever. You'll get through this. There will always be opportunities. We don't necessarily know what they will be. So they need us also to encourage them.
true.
And the other thing that you promised to do was to touch on the issue of age discrimination. You've kind of waltzed around it a bit, but
It's out there.
it is there.
So,
And
point
yet
blank.
we can't let it defeat people. People need to know how to deal with it. So what recommendations do you have about, upfront dealing with it?
First of all, accept the fact that it's out there. Honestly, I did not want to come out and say that 7 or 8 years ago. I would just say, oh, blow by that, focus on this, this, and this. And well, now, yes, you have to accept the fact that ageism is in the workplace. It is in the HR industry, whether anyone wants to admit it or not, it's there. So you do have to get your mindset in the right place. And you don't have control over ageism. We're all aging, whether we like it or not. All you can do is control how you think about things and how you react to them. And I learned this pretty strongly, not just with the unemployment journey. Before that, I was starting to learn about the law of attraction and how what you think about and what you put out there is what you're going to attract back. I finally got through to the younger daughter about this. I mean, she struggled and struggled. And I finally said, Cheryl, if you don't at least try this, you're really not doing yourself a favor. And as soon as I can get her into trying to think differently, and it really takes, it's hard work because you've got these tapes going around that are, for me, 68 now, 68 years worth of, I don't think you can do this, or why would you do this? You've never done that before, all that stuff from way back when. You have to work at pushing that away and thinking forward and convincing yourself, I will get another job. This will pass. This is not the end of my career. I will be doing something else soon. And you have to get that gratitude factor in place and be grateful for everything you have right now. And I don't really care what it is. We all want more. We all want different things. We all want to do better. I'd love to have this, this, and this, but I'm so happy I have a roof over my head. I'm paying my bills. I don't have a big fat 401k, but I don't dwell on that either. And instead, I focus on, hey, I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm giving an income to 3 other people. And I love what we do. And we all wake up happy and we're ready to go. And aren't we blessed? Honestly, being so transparent right here. And it's hard when someone's not used to thinking that way to convince them to just try it, just try it. As soon as Cheryl started to think differently, she got 2 interviews the following week. I'm so proud of her. And I don't care that it's with Publix. Publix has great benefits. I'm working with a client from a couple of years ago who really hedged around telling me, yeah, it's with Publix. I don't know if I want to put it on my profile. And I said, are you kidding? I said, have you read up on Publix? They have some really great things. That it's not your permanent job. This is a 6-figure income executive working as a cashier now at Publix. But a couple of weeks later, I checked in with him. I said, how's it going? He said, fantastic. I love getting up. I love going to work. I love working at Publix. He said, who knows where this might lead me, but I'm happy. And that's making me healthy. And I'm getting an income. And I'm so proud of him. I know it's not what he really wants to do, but he's working and he's happy.
Debbie, an older person told me, an older man, fortunately, I've learned a lot from older businessmen in my previous careers. And he said to me, the game of life is played between your ears, that it's all what goes on in your head. And that is the only thing you have any control over.
Exactly.
But some people have a very hard time mentally adjusting their way of thinking. And I remember saying to people, and I do still say it from time to time, that I decided that I would be happy regardless of the circumstances in life. They said, well, how do you do that? I said, I just choose it. They couldn't understand that you can just choose how you mentally respond to life. So that's kind of what you're talking about. So given all that you've experienced and you've enjoyed and so forth, what do you see as the future of your business? Do you see yourself as someone who will never retire because it's too much fun working?
I'm laughing in agreement. Again, I am grateful every morning before my feet hit the floor. I express my gratitude for the day. And by the way, another tip from Dr. Wayne Dyer, rest in peace. I miss him dearly. Right when you're falling asleep, I don't know how he calculates this, but he says right about 5 minutes before you fall asleep, you try to envision what you want the next day, and you tell the universe, as he says, what you want, for the next day. And I'm telling you, when I can catch my brain before I go to sleep and do that, it's really kind of amazing what happens the next day. You're absolutely right, Rosemary. You can only control your thoughts, and what a gift that is. And practice makes perfect. And if I can get people to change one little thing and do it enough so that they all of a sudden they'll start to see a result. And this ties in with, who are you hanging around? Who are your friends? Are they helping you or are they doubting you? And get away from those doubters as fast as you can. I sit right here. I'm looking out over my patio, which is my little sanctuary out there, loaded with orchids, and everything is in bloom right now. It's gorgeous. Thankfully, that's where I go. I go out there every day and just sit and enjoy the nature until I can get out to those happy hours again. But here's the thing. When you start to get traction from that new way of thinking, it's like a little spark will go off and you'll say, wow, that made a difference. I wonder if I should try this. And you just keep doing more of it. And there's so many books and seminars and websites, all kinds of stuff. I subscribe to the Daily OM. It's OM. And it's a little motivational, it's an email every morning, comes in, and it takes, I don't know, 15 seconds to read it. The other site that I love in person that I've always admired is Louisa Hay. And she has an incredible website that I think is being carried on by her daughter. But I have a deck of 64 cards. They're about this big, and it sits next to my bed on my nightstand. And they're basically motivational cards. I pick one up every morning. And I was talking about these cards to a friend the other day, and I said, I think I've been using these for about 5 or 6 years. I looked on the date on the side of the little box. It's like a deck of cards. And no, I've had those cards for 20 years. So one a day, 64 cards. You know how many times I've circulated through those cards. That is, if I go away for a weekend, I take 3 cards with me. And I don't look at them, until it's the morning. It's a ritual. And, it's a wonderful thing because they're so relevant and they're so positive and uplifting. Um, uh, I'm blessed with energy from my income. My income is determined by how valuable I think my services are. There's one that alludes to that. There's all kinds of different little short ways that you can kick yourself into that right mindset right before you go to sleep and right when you get up in the morning. I have gratitude. I have journals. I'm on my 4th journal.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
for me, it's once a week. I know a lot of people that do it every day. A little habit of mine is to write out my little to-do list for the next day before I shut down my office. But I write in that journal every Sunday. I don't know why I picked Sunday. It's not a religious thing for me, but I'm on my 4th book, and someday my kids are going to find those journals as I found my mom's journals after she passed. None of us had any idea she was doing that. What a treasure. What a
Mm.
treasure. But that in itself is really, it's really key. It can keep you on track. And that's what you have to do. You got to keep focus forward, move forward. Don't think about the losses. Don't think about the job you didn't get. Go forward. There's one out there for you. You just have to find it.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm sure that I wish everybody out there looking for a job could hear what you have to say, but we can do our little part in helping them by directing them to your website that's on our website, on our resources page, sharing this discussion that we've had with others who couldn't make the meeting. But also, I was in a meeting yesterday, and the discussion was, what are we going to do differently moving out of the pandemic with regard to marketing and networking? And I said, well, one of the things that we're doing is we're transferring our recorded Zoom events to YouTube videos with the help of a volunteer. And we're going to go back and share those with people who may not have seen them, recycle them, send them to our various contacts as something that, well, actually, I hadn't thought about until yesterday. So I know you're an excellent marketer. You said you have 9,600 people on your newsletter list. Do you do any marketing beyond your newsletter and speaking engagements?
We use LinkedIn. We practice what we preach. That's the best way for us to show our clients our results. But I have a Facebook business page. My girls put me on Instagram. I don't know why. I don't know anything about Instagram. But I'm seeing other LinkedIn people on there, so I guess I might have to kick up my game there. No, I take advantage of like tomorrow, I'm attending a Palm Beach North Chamber breakfast with the CEO for the Florida Chamber of Commerce. I'm excited about that. It's virtual. But in a couple of weeks, they have a in-person event. They're gradually coming back. My marketing is my team. You know, we are out there posting, speaking, engaging with our various networking opportunities. My VP went from Palm Beach County up to Cincinnati to go back home. So, you know, she's starting to scout around the chambers up in that area. And I think I might have paid for one ad on LinkedIn one time to the tune of $100. I don't do any paid advertising. I embrace social media, but very carefully, I tell our clients, you don't have to be on every channel. You have to think about who you're trying to get in front of, where are they likely to be, and then spend your time and energy on those sites. So we in the beginning of what I'm doing now, people were always like very panicked because they were completely overwhelmed, thinking they had to be on Facebook, they have to be on Twitter, they have to be on LinkedIn. I'm like, no, stop. I have a presence on Twitter, but that's not where I get my clients or my corporate training.
Right. Well, thank you, Debbie, for sharing your life and your business success with us. It's really, truly never too late to start something new in life. I'm a big believer in that. You will, of course, receive a recording of today's event, and I hope you'll share it however you do with your audience, because you've really spoken beautifully of the process of not only finding new work, but creating a business. And we'd like to do a little bit more at Encore about how do people create a new business for themselves later in life. And I'm sure your words of wisdom could be useful. A link, as I said, to Debbie's website is on our website on the resources to find work page. We've gone a little over. I don't see any questions in the chat. Therefore, I'll just thank you again, Debbie, and everybody who's on the call today for being with us. And you can be sure that you and I will be talking more, because we had so much fun when we had our informal conversation before.
It went on forever. It was great.
Well, we had a lot of in common. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
This is great. I appreciate everybody taking the time to attend, and hope to see you all again sometime, maybe in person.
Maybe in person. Yes. All right.
Thank you so much.
You.